Hey everyone, it's Randy Coppola, and right next to me is a scale model, an exact scale model of the Mercury capsule that was used in Project Mercury. Now this thing was so small that the astronauts used to consider it putting on the capsule like putting on clothes because it was so tight on the inside. But there's an interesting story behind this capsule. There were two different kind of boosters that were used to lift it in space. There was the Redstone, and then there was the Atlas. The Redstone a lot smaller and only capable of doing those suborbital flights, and then the mighty Atlas that was able to push this capsule up and orbit the Earth. So we're going to explore the differences between the two boosters and show you where they're actually launched from. So come with us.
Test number 108, MR3, was scrubbed because of weather. A letdown feeling? Yes. But it was reassuring to know that the mission would not go unless everything was right.
So here we are at the Air Force Space and Missile History Center right outside the gates of Cape Canaveral. And now we're talking about the two boosters that were used for Project Mercury. This is the Redstone. The Mercury Redstone is so much smaller than the Atlas that was used in the later launches for orbital flights. For the suborbital flights with Alan Shepard and Gus Grissom, this is the rocket that was used. And you can see in this photograph, there's the Mercury capsule at the very top.
As Project Mercury got underway, production of Redstone launch vehicles began at the Marshall Space Flight Center. Careful, individual production of vehicles earmarked for Mercury from the day the first bolt came into the plant. The Redstone was available, and with modifications it would do the job. At the McDonnell Aircraft Company plant at St. Louis, just 3 months after project inception, prototype spacecraft production was begun. A few short months later, production spacecraft were being completed. Your trips to the production points were important. You became thoroughly familiar with the Mercury systems. The closer you got to the system, the more confident you became.
Here we are again at the History Center, and next to me is an actual boilerplate of a Mercury capsule. Now, for safety reasons, they made these up to ensure that they would survive drop tests and other testing as they led up to the flights. Now, they also sent primates up, which we'll cover in a little bit, that they sent them up before we sent our first American astronauts up in Project Mercury.
You followed the flight test program closely. Components, then systems, then prototypes, then production craft. A pyramid of testing. A pyramid of tests that would lead to manned flight. You knew that data and know-how was being gathered to reduce the risk element.
Now we're inside the blockhouse of Complex 26. It's an exact duplicate of the pad that was launched, Alan Shepard's Redstones and Gus Grissom's Redstones. The reason I brought you in here is because you can see there's windows here, and the rockets that were launched were only 400 feet away. Now you could do that with a Redstone with only 78,000 pounds of thrust, but wait till we show you what the blockhouse looks like for an Atlas.
The review board evaluated the flight readiness of all the mission elements. Spacecraft, launch vehicle, pilots, tracking stations, recovery forces, everything. The decision? Go. As the gantry is pulled back, the emergency vehicle known as the cherry picker is raised into position. An armored car is located at the pad. It can operate in any terrain. At the viewing stands about 2 miles away, Hundreds of press, radio, and television representatives stand by to witness the launch.
Cabin pressure is holding at 5.5. Cabin holding at 5.5.
One more thing to note before we leave the launch pad is that look how close the blockhouse is. Now remember I told you it's only 400 feet away. When we show you the blockhouse of 14, you'll realize that that was completely unacceptable for the more powerful Atlas. This is the pad from which John Glenn was launched for his first orbital flight with the Mercury Atlas. The Atlas was powerful enough to raise that capsule all the way up into Earth orbit. And of course, the Redstone just didn't have the power to get it done.
Into the soft light of this Florida dawn emerges Friendship 7, making its debut to the day of its destiny. The Mercury Atlas stands alone, waiting to depart this Earth. 250,000 pounds of rocket with thrust equal to 3.5 million horsepower. All to hurdle a 168-pound astronaut into space.
So to further drive home the differences between the Redstone booster and the Atlas booster, we need to go no further than the actual Pad 14 blockhouse. Now as you can see, there's no windows on this blockhouse. If you wanted to see the happenings on the pad, you had to look through a periscope. But we'll show you the layout of the pad and show you how much more preparation and safety was needed for the mighty Atlas booster.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 0. Backup clock is started. 102, 101, oxygen 78, 100, amps 27.
Well, I hope you enjoyed our tour of the launch pads and the comparisons between the Redstone booster and the Atlas booster. For U.S. Launch Report, Veteran Space Report, it's Randy Coppola. Thank you for watching.